But here is a very interesting notion that I was playing with Atish as well, and it's that when we're sitting on the outside, I see my social circles talk about these political issues, and they talk about these political issues with such grand attributions. Like Prime Minister Modi, Rahul Gandhi is concerned with the welfare of the people, right? They have a grand vision for India. However, they phrase it. There is sort of like this grandiosity, this heroic narrative, one way or the other. It might not be as poetically heroic as say Bollywood turns out to be, but it's heroic regardless. And when you come one degree further, as probably I have, in contrast to my friend group, I realize there is a lot of like proximate local motivations, very very like, so for instance, it seems like from the outside that he would do away with these regulations, but somehow it comes down to the fact that they double down on these regulations instead for some other reason. Or for that matter, it might seem like, demonetization, what a brilliant move, but it's just some silly advice from an economist that is not as thorough as he should be, that surrounds the prime minister right now.
From an economist who's not an economist.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
As Bhagwati, who teaches in your university,
Right.
said
Yes.
once about the most important RSS economist. He said, if that man's an economist, I'm a Bharatnatyam dancer.
Yes. Right. So am I correct in my understanding that this attribution problem to people we see in the media, in the news, behind a screen, is usually off key? Like if you were any closer to them, you'd realize that their motivations are very different from what we project onto them.
Yes, but also I really believe that Indian schools teach history very badly. And so I'm very happy actually that I think the best thing he's done is this new education policy, which has taken it out of the hands of the bureaucrats. Now, for instance, with me, I'm a political journalist, but when I studied political science in St. Bede's College, Simla, I came away understanding nothing, zero. I didn't even understand different forms of government. I came out of that college, and I read all the time. I'm a big reader. I came out without even knowing which history books to read to help me with my, courses, etc. I left school at 14 because they made a mistake about the class that I should be in. So, we don't really, and this is the highest level. This is, get the best. You go to an ordinary school or college
Right.
in rural India, and you feel ashamed. So, I mean, in some ways, what he's doing is the right thing when he identifies education, healthcare. They've, I think, tripled the amount they're going to spend on healthcare. He has identified where they've gone wrong, the Congress Party. But I believe he should have gone further. I think that he should insist that every official, elected and unelected, must use those, their children must go to those schools and they must use those hospitals. Only then will it improve. So what you get in the history books that we read is, Chacha Nehru is a great hero and Mahatma Gandhi is a great Mahatma, and there can be nothing bad said about them. That's when you're on the secular side. When you're on the non-secular government, like we technically have now, then Deen Dayal Upadhyay, who nobody'd ever heard of. I didn't even, I mean, this obscure little scholar whose work no one knows has, in his name, they've changed the name of Mughal Sarai railway station. I mean, that's one of the most important junctions, train junctions in northern India. And Mughal Sarai, it's so obvious that you shouldn't do that. No one's ever going to call it Deen Dayal Upadhyay junction.
Right. Let's be more realistic. Yes. Right.
So it's those things, that this hero worship. We are a colonized people. They didn't they didn't decolonize education or the bureaucracy. So the bureaucracy builds schools, builds public goods that they never need to use because they are the bada sahibs who are living in mansions and doing that. So I was really hoping that Modi would concentrate on doing those things. And, it's very sad for me that he's got diverted into this temples and wounds of history.
Right. And so let me ask you this then. is your understanding that he's got diverted, or is your understanding that it was always a conceited, I'm going to distract you with this, or and then I'm going to actually deliver this over the next 10 years? Like, what happened? Did he actually get distracted? Did he find that he could not take on those challenges that he'd said, and then he had to resort to, say, lesser populist ideas? What happened in the last 6 years?
I think that it was always in their agenda. Don't forget that his only education has been in the RSS. That he was first a pracharak, then he became, he left school before he finished school, right? And so this is how they've been brought up, on a kind of hostility towards Muslims for a start, the grievances of history, which I mean, if they wanted to actually do something constructive with the wounds of history, then they would try to heal them, no? A truth commission. But they seem to realize that you can win you can win full majority in the Lok Sabha without giving a single Muslim a ticket. And there is, I mean, let's face it, underneath the surface, there is a hatred of Muslims in India that we have to accept exists,
That
right?
never existed.
No, no,
Five,
no,
it always did.
always did.
Ah.
Always did. I mean, I'll be truthful with you. My dadi, after partition, would not allow, what is it, halal or jhatka, whichever one it is, meat to come into the thing.
Halal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
right.
And she hated Muslims.
Mm.
Now, it might be because of partition that she hated them,
Hmm.
but I know with a lot of the families that I grew, other than in the schools where the medium is English, there Hindus and Muslims don't mix, castes don't mix, you know. So those divisions are what they have exploited very well. And then when you failed economically and really failed, because his image has been very damaged in this past, since he became prime minister the second time. He was very keen at one point to be seen as an international statesman, right? And now every article that I read in any major Western publication attacks him. There's no, I mean, they compare him to Erdogan and Orban, and I mean, they see India as moving in a
Radical direction.
no, in a fascist direction. Now, there's something that I learned from Vidya Naipaul, which I've never. He said it's very dangerous to use European words to understand what's going on in India. So it's very easy to say, and the Congress loves this. Oh, fascism, and communalism, and blah blah blah. It's not fascism in that sense, but it is an idea of division for power. And they're going to end up dividing this country. And I mean, on the other side we have a goof, so and there's no one to challenge him except that goof. So he's really in clover at the moment. So if he thinks hatred is the way forward, that's what we're going to get.